Hello and welcome. You're with us here on Business Today in conversation with Rajeev Samant of Sula Vineyards, the man who built the company that's today heading in for yet another mega IPO on the stock markets. Rajeev, great to have you with us. And I remember, interacting with you at the vineyards almost 20 years ago now when you first set on this path, and it was such a novel decision at the time. You were one of the first to really make an entry into the market, build something ground up, for the wine industry in India, and it's come a really long way. I want to just share some of that journey with our viewers before we get into the numbers and what's exciting around the IPO. Share with us like how far really the brand story has come in these last 2 decades.
Thanks a lot, Aabha. Yes, I remember that day well when you visited the vineyards. Wow, that was maybe 20 years ago. And what a fantastic journey it's been for myself, for Sula, and for Indian wine in those last 20 years. I mean, I just remember, I'll tell you one story that when we first started, it took us about 6 months to sell 1 truckload of wine. It was that difficult. And, today, as we sell 1 million cases. That's what we're looking at this year. It's been an amazing journey.
Wow, from 1 truck to 1 million cases. That's phenomenal. So tell us, Rajeev, what led to you thinking about an IPO, that too just post-pandemic? What's really changed? What were the trends that emerged in the last couple of years that led you to be confident enough and want to explore the IPO route?
So one thing I should point out is that Sula has now been around for more than 20 years. Yeah. And an IPO is, at the end of the day, a milestone in the journey of any successful company. If you just hark back to 10 years ago, it was given that a company would IPO. It's just in the last 10 years that we've gotten used to private equity and, questioning why is a company going public. Our brand is a brand that belongs to India. It is an amazing Make in India story. About all our wines are made from grapes that are grown right here in India. And we just think it's time now to share our success, to share the success of the Sula brand with the wider public. Also, a few of our shareholders, they've been on board for many, many, many years. And it's time to give a few people a good exit. We've always given good exits for our shareholders. And so that time has come for Sula to go public.
So how is the shareholding likely to change, Rajeev? What's anticipated post-IPO? How has it been structured?
So we're going to sell about 1/3 of the total outstanding shares of Sula. So we're going to get about 1/3 new investors, holders on. 2/3 of the shareholding will remain as present.
All right. And in terms of, the kind of growth, the kind of expansion that you're looking at, and let's dive into that one by one. Both products wise as well as regionally and in terms of tier 2 and expanding to further cities. So first let's talk about the brands, because Sula made a very strategic decision a little while ago to shift more towards its own brands rather than the original model of importing a lot of different wine brands. How has that worked out for you? What is the basket of products looking like now, and how's that expected to grow?
So that's been a very successful strategy over these last couple of years. When the pandemic hit, we really pivoted our focus mostly to our own brands, and that too to our own premium brands, where Sula really dominates the market. Indians are drinking more and more wine across the country, and more they're reaching for a glass of or a bottle of well-made Indian wine. And more that wine happens to be Sula or one of our brands, Rasa, The Source, or some of the new premium brands that we've launched over the last couple of years.
Okay. And in terms of expansion, where are you seeing, the highest demand or the highest increase in demand? What do you feel will lead to growth?
So we have seen strong double-digit growth in this market over the last few years. Sula is, of course, the market leader. At this point, definitely wine consumption is more in the metros in India. It has been very much a story of the metros. But more and more, over the last couple of years, we're starting to see consumption boom also in tier 2 cities. And that's really where we see the growth coming in the next few years.
There are also, of course, many more wine brands or companies that have launched in India. Of course, Sula is the first, the biggest, but in terms of competition, how has that eaten into market share, Rajeev?
So Sula has been the market leader since 2009, and we've held that position. In fact, during the pandemic, we've gained market share. So it's very true that there are more and more wine companies coming in. But I think, today, premium Indian wine means Sula, and Sula stands for premium Indian wine across the country. And that's a position that we've held for more than a decade. And I just see us growing on that.
All right. In terms of the kind of appetite you expect from the markets, there have been some, there has been some nervousness or delays in IPOs kicking off because of the volatile market conditions. Any concerns on that front? Like, what are you hearing, from the investor roadshows, investor community?
See, market volatility is something that's always going to happen. I must say that we are not that concerned. Of course, we have our eye on it, but we are not that concerned because we have such a strong story, such a strong brand, and a strong history of profitability. So this is a company with a made in India, strong consumer brand coming to market after a long time. We're going to be the only listed company in the wine space. So if you're an investor who believes in the growth story for wine going ahead, in the public markets, there's going to be only Sula Vineyards. We are the market leaders. We have the profitability track record. We aim to continue with that. So we are moving ahead with our plans to go public. We are not so concerned today about the volatility in the market.
What about the regulatory hurdles or other kind of challenges that the industry does face in terms of functioning? Do you feel we have found ways to manage it? Are there any particular risks? And would there be a way to address those for investors that may be concerned that this is the one red flag for the industry?
So, of course, Alcobev in India means regulation, means taxation. But if you take a look at our history, Aabha, it's something that we have been able to manage well, manage that environment well, and reach where we've reached today with more than 50% of the Indian wine market, with double-digit growth over the last 5 years. And hopefully this industry as a whole, as per the industry report, is looking at strong double-digit growth over the next few years with Sula, we believe, leading that charge. So even though for sure there are regulatory issues, Alcobev in India is not easy. You have 25 different states that allow alcohol, each of them with their own bewildering array of regulations and taxation. We today are a company with a 22-year track record in this industry. We're the market leaders. Our sales have been booming, and we hope to continue that story.
Give us some insights into consumer behavior and how it's changed, Rajeev. I read somewhere that women were one of the highest growing categories in terms of consumption. I know that some wine companies, I don't know if that includes Sula, did experiment for a while in the middle with new formats and cans and so forth. Did that work? Any anecdotal evidence that you can share with us with regards to consumer behavior, what they're looking for?
Absolutely. When I look back to 20 years back when we launched, nobody knew what wine was. You would have our basically liquor stores in Mumbai and elsewhere, which were called wine shops. So everybody thought that wine is spirits and spirits means wine. Today, that's all changed. So many people know exactly what wine is. If you look at the shows on the OTTs, like, your Netflix, etc., you have more and more shows where the main protagonists are reaching for a glass of wine and that's become so common. And when you talk about women, in my parents' generation, women just did not drink. My mother would maybe have a glass of shandy every once in a while. Today, when you talk about the metros and even the tier 2 cities, it's perfectly socially acceptable for, a young independent woman to have a glass of wine, a glass of white wine, glass of rosé, absolutely acceptable. So for wine, we have the largest proportion of women consumers compared to any other Alcobev. And that's a trend that's going to help us out a lot in the future.
And in terms of, best-selling products or the kind of margins that one looks at in this business, share with us, what really is, the kind of, bottom line that one can look at and the kind of margins that one has, because India has always been a very price sensitive market, and Sula's always been very adept at capturing the kind of pricing that Indian consumers found reasonable or easy to digest. Is that the same strategy you're continuing with? Do you have a bigger range of pricing now across products?
Absolutely. So, we've always been seen as an affordable premium product. You've never felt that, reaching for a bottle of Sula, that this is something that's going to break the bank or is overpriced. I have always believed that, I want to put our wine in front of as many people as possible. And when you finish that glass or that bottle, you're going to say, hey, that was something I really enjoyed and at quite an affordable price. So our sweet spot has been over these last few years in sort of the 700 rupee to 1100 rupee range. But having said that, Sula's products start at 250 rupees and go all the way to 2000 rupees. And Sula dominates pretty much every category, every price category within that. So you have your people who are, more price conscious, looking for wines less than 500 rupees. But more and more, you have a big segment of people looking to spend between 1,000 and 1,500 rupees for a bottle of wine. And that's where our brands like Rasa, The Source, really dominate. And in fact, our market share in that segment is even higher.
How is this going to change life for you, Rajeev, as an entrepreneur, someone who's grown this company multifold over the last 20 years? Are you sitting back a bit now, or are you going to be neck deep because of the fact that you're listing, going public, and of course there's going to be so much to discuss around Sula as it continues to grow?
So I never sit back and relax. I've got to say that I'm always driven to see what's next, what's forward, always moving things forward. Look, of course, life as a public limited CEO, that's going to be a change. I don't think it's going to go to our heads. We've got a long history. We've got a history of being pioneers. We've got a history of some great achievements behind us. We've done so many things for the first time in wine. We set up the first winery in Nashik, and today Nashik is India's wine region. So Sula has done all of these things. So of course, it's going to be a change. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the challenge. Personally, I don't think it's going to change my life so much. I'm quite happy with life as it is today. But I'm very happy to say that 90% of our employees will become shareholders of Sula in this IPO. And that's something I'm very proud of. So anyone who's been at Sula for more than 1 year has gotten shares as part of this. And so their lives, I hope, are going to change for the better.
Wonderful. It's great to see this success story bearing fruition, and we look forward to speaking to you again at the time of the IPO. All the best, Rajeev, and thanks so much for taking out the time to speak with us today.
Thank you so much, Aabha. Looking forward to it.
Same here.
वीडियो पसंद आया तो हमें लाइक, कमेंट, शेयर और सब्सक्राइब जरूर करें।